Hey YouTube, Dawson Rider here. Welcome to my review for Lightning Collection Dino Charge Pink from Power Rangers Lost Galaxy. Were you paying attention there? It's actually Power Rangers Dino Charge. I don't know why I always do that, but this is from Wave 11. Reviewing these separately like I did before. Let's go ahead and take a look at the accessories this comes with. As you can see on her, she has her individual weapon, which we'll talk about here in a second, but that's usually accompanied by an armor, which she does not have. She has two sets of hands, the ones that are on her, which are just for holding weapons, and then karate chop hand and a closed fist. The individual Dino Charge morpher, which also, of course, acts as a blaster, which is pretty poorly painted. I think they always have been. And, you know, the paint on the Lightning Collection weapons is hit and miss, but this is definitely one of the more poor-looking ones. It looks more in line with something you would see with a basic figure. More like a Hasbro basic figure than a Bandai one, because the Bandai one would just be all gray plastic. And then here you have your standard lightning effect piece. As mentioned, this does include the individual weapon, which is actually pretty decently painted. It's kind of a hard one to mess up that much, though, because they're pretty basic. They almost look like little inflatable toys, but the silver paint on it actually looks rather nice, and the little symbol on here for the Tyrannosaurus, wow, Dawson, you're good at dinosaurs, for the Triceratops actually kind of pops out really nicely. So it's nice looking for what it is, but in the show, unless I'm forgetting a beat, I don't think they could ever use them without the dino armor on, which had like the spikes here. So it is a little bit strange to have that without it. I'm going to be honest, it's not my favorite mode, so it doesn't bother me too much, but it definitely is strange since that's the only way you can use it, and she's the only one that includes it. It seems like they just wanted to give her something unique and decided on this. I mean, I would have rather her just come with the sword as well, or maybe she could have come with the sword and blaster combo or something. It definitely is something strange. Like, it's kind of more of a weird continuity release thing, and not something that would be a deal breaker for me. Let's talk about, like, the overall details and everything, and I think for the most part, sans a couple little missing beats, she looks overall pretty decent. One thing I want to draw attention to right away is that she doesn't have any color discrepancies really, or at least any major ones, outside of where she's supposed to. And I mainly bring that up because two of the recent Pink Ranger releases, like the re-release of MMPR Pink and even the original one, and In Space Pink, had some major color discrepancies, like in the chest skirt area where it looked really patchy and off and strange and messy and awful. And for here, this, like, there's a little bit of difference in some of the colors, but for the most part from here on it flows together nicely. Like, unless you're really looking for it, it looks good, so I appreciate that. Obviously, there's a color difference between her arms and, like, the body, but that's the way it's supposed to be because of the suit design, so I wanted to draw attention to that. I think the head sculpt for the helmet's overall really nice, maybe a little bit ill-proportioned, but nothing too offensive or anything like that. You know, they got the nice inner details and everything. I think overall a good job on that. I think the sash looks pretty good. They have it popping pretty nicely. Not too many huge complaints there. You are missing a little bit of finer detail on the belt in regards to the little dino symbol there, like it doesn't have the eye. And if I recall, they've been kind of inconsistent on how the belts match up between the releases. And then the color consistency continues around here, and everything overall, I think, for me, looks... it's fairly Lightning Collection standard, I would say, where for me, it looks decent. There's a few problems here and there, but nothing in particular about the look of this one outside of that strange situation with the weapon that would be a deal breaker where I wouldn't recommend it to fill out the Dino Charge collection because as of this recording, other than Coda, that's all we need to fill out the Dino Charge Core 6, which is really nice. So if you're looking to fill out your team, I could still recommend this. Articulation-wise, you have your pretty standard articulation here. You got your nice ball hinge joint around here, all around good movement. Elbow joint here, swiveling at the fists. Nice ball joint at the leg. You will be hindered a little bit by the skirt, but it's decently flexible to where, you know, you'll be able to loosen it enough over time, but it's always going to be a little bit hindered compared to a figure that doesn't have a skirt. You got your nice knee joint right there, and all the joints are really clicky in mine and really tight on mine. Same thing with the feet. You have the nice little hinge joint here, but they're really tight joints, and for whatever reason on mine, the way they are, they're so tight that sometimes she has a hard time standing because I can't get the feet positioning right. I don't know if that's going to be something you're going to encounter on yours. I don't know if it's an like across-the-board QC issue where her feet are a little bit uneven or the joints are too tight so that you have an uneven problem, but that's something to note on mine. It's definitely something to watch out for. You have your hinge joint here on the waist, and then the ball joint here up at the chest, and then your nice all-around ball joint head articulation, you know, 360 creepy exorcist stuff. Like, all around, no loose joint problems or anything. In fact, sometimes the opposite problem a little bit is the joints around here are a little too stiff, especially here. And as I mentioned, there are some problems sometimes with it standing. I don't know if that's across the board or anything, though, but again, that's worth noting in case it is, because that would not be the first figure I bought that had a problem with standing that was kind of an across-the-board issue. Now let's go ahead and do some comparisons, I don't know if you can tell I'm holding her up for standing, between past releases like I usually do with these figures. Now first of all, here is the old Action Hero release from the Bandai days. Obviously, this is the overall superior figure. It's going to be better detailed, more accurately proportioned and everything, even with the details missing. I mean, she doesn't even have her belt painted. I still stand by these figures for being decent for what they were. I mean, these were meant to be the basic action figures, but obviously if you're looking for a comparison to find the best Dino Charge Pink, she wins out in regards to the Action Hero comparison. And then you have what the only other like solid comparison would be, which is the figure art. I would say the first thing I want to talk about is the color, in terms of color accuracy. I would say, like, you can see they're very different color schemes. This one's a very light pink, almost like a creamy strawberry ice cream, and this one leans more towards hot pink. I looked at some images before this just to sort of see, and I would almost say the most accurate color for this is somewhere in between the two, whereas this is a little too dark, but this is almost too milky. But for this figure itself, I wouldn't say it's anything offensively inaccurate. Like, again, the color accuracy wouldn't be something that I wouldn't recommend the figure over, but it's definitely worth noting. And I think that both helmets also have this thing where I think the perfect one would be in between the two. I think this one's a little bit too over-exaggerated, but this one's a little too puffy. Obviously, you're going to get some more articulation here with the figure art, and you're going to get some more intricate details and whatnot as well. I'm still of the mind that the old figure arts molds don't hold up as well as people think they do. I think they're kind of held up on a pedestal. That being said, I think this is one of the better ones. Like, it's not offensively too skinny or anything like that. And as you can see here, it represents that it has that armor, and that's not permanent. This is a detachable armor, so it does show off that you have that. So there's things to consider there with this, and it's worth noting that the figure arts ones do have a full team of 6. So, you know, you can get all of them if you want. Now, just in regards to the armor, I just realized that I forgot her head sculpt. That's in regards to the armor. I can't believe I almost forgot that, which honestly I think looks pretty good. You know, it's passable. It looks like Shelby, but almost like 10 years from now, business Shelby. Anyway, back to in regards to the armor. I'd say, again, on a personal note, I'm not that upset just because it's not my favorite mode anyway, but it is a little bit strange. I'm kind of curious, like, how much more it would cost them to include it, or, like I said, rather, why don't they just include something like the sword? I don't know. I mean, I feel like I brought this up in other videos, but I personally don't care too much about the lightning effects, and I can't help but wonder, like, could they put little bits of money elsewhere if we got rid of the lightning effects? Like, if you were to tell me you could get the armor just so it would be more accurate and not include this, I would be honestly fine with that, but I don't know. So I feel like that's going to be a deal breaker for some people. For me, it's more so just something weird. And I would say this figure overall, it's okay. You know, it's not having me jump out of my seat. It's got its little classic Lightning Collection issues, but it doesn't really have any ones that stand out to me that would stop me from recommending it to somebody that wants to complete their Dino Charge collection, since we're nearing the end of being able to do that. It's not a perfect figure, but I think it has less issues than some of them recently. And, like, again, issues like the armor for me is more just kind of a logic curiosity than it is like a huge complaint. I think that it was ultimately done just because they wanted to give her something unique to come with without spending the extra money to have to include the armor or try to figure out the logistics of how they would have it go on her without interrupting the design of the toy. But that's about it for this one, guys. Until next time, if you like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell to see notifications for my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.